let's play one more clip. Vermont and the Democratic Party made some history. I believe this is the first transgender candidate who's been nominated for the governorship by a major party in the United States. This is, sorry, what's her name? Christine Hallquist on CNN. And this is so first of all, obviously, big historical accomplishment. I don't necessarily agree with this frame here. I think socialism specifically is, a word that should be articulated and specifically defended. But regardless of that, there's two things that are important about this clip. One, socialism is on the march in terms of kind of culture and conversation, and that's where Berman is coming from here in the CNN question. And Hallquist, I don't necessarily agree with her frame, but she's on board with a really, really good agenda for America and specifically for the state of Vermont. So very good candidate here.
And their view of socialism. And for the first time in Gallup's measurement here, at least the first time we've seen, more Democrats viewed socialism favorably than capitalism. Does that surprise you?
Well, I'm not a person that's big on labels because I found labels are used to separate people. I look at the platform of a living wage and health care for all. That's called civilized society. I don't even know how that became socialism or Republican or Democrat. Let's be a civilized society.
Do you support capitalism?
Well, obviously, the long history of measuring ourselves by increasing of gross domestic product is a flawed measure because that just encourages consumption. And we can see what consumption is doing to our world.
So again, I know you don't like labels, and this poll didn't ask people to choose between capitalism and socialism, but when faced with a choice between the two, it does sound like you look more favorably, again, the labels you have an issue with, on the ideas behind socialism.
Well, yes, and I'm not sure I even know what socialism is, so I just don't have the background to answer that question.
I appreciate the honesty of that answer. Also, I believe Hallquist, I think she actually does have a very successful business background, ironically, I believe. But, I mean, so she's on point and honest. And then the big standout is just the lunkhead, socialism. I mean, that's like the most, Anchorman impression in real life I've ever seen, right? Like, civilized society, everybody should have health care and a living wage. Sounds to me like you are supporting socialism?
It's really fun to watch all the cable news networks try and wrap their head around how to address this issue.
Right.
Because they're all like, I got to do homework again. I got to figure out how this all works.
Oh, I've got to talk with somebody speaking common sense with moral conviction instead of endless trivial nonsense about the horse race. Let me see if this works. Socialism?
I have to stay up all night reading Das Kapital so I can understand socialism.
Well, I think we're
JK.
still a ways from that, right?
Well, yeah,
John Berman, he marches into the C-suite. He's like, "You're extracting my labor as an anchor. I never read Marx before."
I feel like this is a good sign, though, maybe, because, people like Bernie Sanders are only seen as socialists because the Overton window has moved so far to the right. And most of the policies that all of these quote unquote democratic socialists are advocating are social democracy. They're what Democrats used to be. They're progressives. They're liberals who actually are liberal. So the fact that this particular politician doesn't feel the need to call herself a socialist, perhaps that means that this is becoming more mainstream in the Democratic Party, and the people calling themselves socialists from here on out are going to be the people calling for actual socialism.
Word.